People are calling this most recent photo of Earth fake. And honestly, I get why. Because if you actually look at the image, it almost looks too perfect. Too clean, too sharp, and too unrealistic. But you know what? Even not regarding any of the controversy, I can tell you that this photo is completely real and it was actually taken by NASA astronauts. But the reason it feels fake has actually nothing to do with the photo itself. It is because people don't actually understand how images work. So when people saw the image for the first time, they said that it was edited, that it was AI generated, and that it looks CGI. And you know, newsflash, it of course is edited. But here's the part that most people don't get. Almost every single image you've seen in your life has been edited in one way or another. Cameras don't capture the world like your eyes do. They capture data. Flat, low contrast, and washed out data. When you take a photo, it doesn't look real from the camera. Even if you're using JPEG as your file format, it still applies the visual effects in your camera. And if you shoot your images raw, then you apply the edits yourself. You shape the photo how you want it to look, how you want it to feel. With every raw photo you take, you adjust the exposure, you correct the colors, you add contrast, you bring it closer to what the moment actually felt like. Because cameras see the world completely differently from your own eyes. In this case, edited doesn't mean fake, it means visible. If you have done any astrophotography in your life, you know that the settings have to be pretty crazy and you have to shoot long exposure. In this case, when taking a picture of a planet, you are working with a lot of contrast. There is a bright planet as a subject and a lot of complete pitch darkness around it. Now you might think that you need a very capable camera with today's modern standards to take a photo like this with such detail, but you'd be wrong, because if you zoom in, you can actually see that there's plenty of noise. This image was actually taken on a Nikon D5, which is a pretty old camera. I think it was released in 2016. They've shot this image on a camera that's over 10 years old. And if that doesn't prove that you don't need the latest and greatest gear for your hobbyist photography, then I don't know what does. And that is pretty crazy if you think about it. Because the Nikon D5 isn't some kind of like magic space camera only used by astronauts. That was a professional DSLR camera. And it is something that people used on Earth for regular photo shoots or regular capturing of their memories. And even by today's standards, that camera is pretty old with pretty low specs. This is the most recent photo of Earth taken on the Artemis 2 expedition. But people compare it to the older images of Earth taken before, and because it looks so different, they're calling it fake and AI generated. But those photos were taken under completely different conditions. Different cameras, different lenses, different distances, and much lower resolution. Older Earth photos, like the famous image Blue Marble, were taken on much older sensors with lower dynamic range and often involved stitching multiple images together. They had softer detail, different color rendering, and slightly processed look that people got used to. It looks fake because it doesn't match the version of Earth that people have in their minds. You have to take into account also the conditions. The Earth is pretty much perfectly exposed, and although there is some light bleeding because of the sun and also some trails, the space around the Earth is completely black. So in that photo, there's some serious dynamic range. Now think about how this could be shot. You're far away from Earth, where light is limited and everything is moving. The spacecraft itself is moving, the Earth is rotating. Nothing in this image was perfectly still. So you can't just drop your shutter speed super low, because that would introduce a lot of motion blur. So what do you do in a case like that? The only real answer that makes sense is pushing the ISO to the maximum. And as you can see by the image, quite a lot. Although it introduces grain, it still keeps the photo and the subject, which is the Earth, pretty sharp. But somewhere on the internet, it was reported that the image was shot at 56,000 ISO, which means that the image straight from the camera wouldn't look anything like this. There would be a lot more grain, and it wouldn't be exposed as good as this image is. Without any editing, it would have a lot more noise. It would be a lot flatter, and it would feel a lot less perfect. But you don't see the raw photo because it's processed. And that's exactly the part which people confuse with fake, because for the better part of history, even edited photos still came from reality. A camera had to be there. The light had to hit the sensor, something had to happen, and that something had to be captured by the camera. But unfortunately, that no longer is true, because now, with the help of AI, you can create images with no camera at all. And the thing you're capturing doesn't even have to exist or happen in real time. You can achieve perfect lighting, perfect detail, and basically perfect anything with the help of AI. So now we live in a world where real photos look fake, and fake ones look real. And with the advancements, most people can't even tell the difference between a real photo and an AI photo. And that is why photography is changing. You don't have to focus on nailing perfectly your exposure, your composition, or the overall look of your image. It's not about technicality anymore. It's about the thought behind your photo, the feeling that it evokes, and about the human error that it has. AI already owns the perfect technical aspects of the image, just like when writing with AI. If you prompt it to write something for you, it will give out a perfect output in a way that most people don't write, so it seems fake and unnatural because it has perfect punctuation, perfect word choices. Same goes for photos. Anyone can generate a technically perfect image nowadays. What you have to focus on is the story behind it and the feeling that it provokes. But not anyone can capture that. And if you really want to stand apart from all the other photographers, that's what your photos have to have. And with every day, that difference is starting to matter a lot more. If you want to stay ahead as a photographer in this changing era, then definitely subscribe.